With that, Cindi Claypatch.
What are you going to say? Okay. Remember. I'm doing ventriloquism today. Weren't you going to tell him something? Can you feel that? Okay. Thank you. This is my time now, okay? All right, so do you want to take a seat somewhere? Or do you want to stay up here? Is that great? For those of you who might not have been able to hear that, I said, did you want to take a seat or do you want to stay up here? She said, stay up here. This is Sophia. And I just got to meet her this morning. She helped setting up the space, but helped me do some smudging. So that was really nice, putting a nice feeling out here. Okay, you can do that. Now the flowers look better. But anyways, when I asked her if she would come up and say a few words, she said she would go pss, 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 pss. And I thought, well, that's okay because we can receive that, right? How do we know what language that is and what it's saying? I'm sorry, I've got to get my clicker. So when we're looking at receiving, there's a lot of different things we're looking at. And what I think is most important is seeing it as, I'm challenged today. Must have been, I should have just slept here yesterday. I was here for the psychic fair yesterday, and it was a really nice time. And I think that was such a great example of receiving, is people received a lot of different readings, different healings, different lectures, and really came in a place of receiving. That for me, I noticed that people who came in with me were just like ready to do something. And so open is a big piece of receiving. But as you can see here, I always love to look up words in the dictionary. I have done that since I've been a kid. If I'm interested in really what the quality of a word is, I tend to look it up. And this has got just a little bit too much. I'll turn that down just to hear. Okay, and so to take in, is what receiving's about, or to allow something to come, to receive it, to take it in, and, with energy and with words or with other things that we send or give to each other, there's sometimes that resistance, isn't there? It's like we don't really fully receive things a lot of times. And so I want to talk about that a little bit today, because we really want to receive stuff, and because there's a lot of things that are being transmitted right now. We're seeing a larger part of the population waking up, right? And then we're seeing quite a bit of the population still asleep. And so what we really want to do is be in the spirit of helping people wake. And in order to do that, we want to be in a space that's a beautiful feeling to be received, right? But a lot of times, we are challenged by that because our eye will go on the other stuff, and then it'll make it harder for us to be in that feeling. So when you think about to receive something transmitted, Sometimes that might mean in a channeled way for people who have those, advanced kind of skills. But other times that means, to be able to listen, just really listen to somebody talking about something. Listening for stuff that comes up for you on a regular basis. Every now and then you'll hear a theme. Isn't that interesting? That sometimes all of a sudden a lot of different people are talking about the same thing. And then that might be something being transmitted for you to pick up and to receive. But there's a lot of things that you can receive. So it's like you can receive stuff on a real psychic way where there's things that are interacting with the frequency that you're in, or you could have it just be a gift from somebody, right? What are things you think of when you come up with the idea of receiving? What comes to you? Anybody? Love? Open? No, she did. She said, I was thinking love, but you said it. Yeah, but that's, big thing is love. What else? Pardon me? Light? Yeah. How about things that maybe you could think of, what is it that you tend to resist that is being given? Yeah. When somebody's trying to give you something, what is it that you resist? Help. Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
When you think it's something different than what it should be, for example, like when she hit the road, there was love for that, so you be open to it.
Yeah. Could you all hear that? She was saying that a lot of times when we're in resistance, we aren't able to translate or know what somebody's saying, but the little girl, Sophia, when she was going like this, she was actually transmitting, a nice feeling of love. And so, yeah. What did you say? Compliments. Isn't that interesting? How many of you have been resistant to people complimenting you? Yeah, it's like, wow, what's up with that? Where do we get that resistance from? What else do people receive? Energy. Mm-hmm. Intuition. Inspiration. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Wisdom. Joy. Yeah. Uh-huh. She's saying that our speed, our habit of speed gets in the way. Mm-hmm. Very true. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a great point. So she's saying resistance comes in because we really want to be moving fast, and we think that if we slow down, that's a problem, like it's going to get in the way of us getting something. Yeah, it's that fastness. Yeah. And you receive insights. Yeah. So like, where did we come up with that there was a problem with any of those things? Don't those things sound good? Yeah, all the good stuff, she says. So intuition, insight, compliments, help, love, joy. It's like, oh no, I don't want any of that. So it's just somewhere along the line, whether it was this lifetime or another, we picked up or paid a price or were taught something that gets in the way of that. Like a compliment. Well then, if somebody gives you a compliment, does that mean, what's our fear? Might have to say something back and you don't feel good about them right now? No. Okay.
You know, that sense of it has to be an ultimate. If you tell me I'm a good mother, I think, you know those times when I'm not.
That's great. That's great.
You can accept compliments anytime because it gives you credit. Even if you feel about yourself, it's not good, but it gives you credit.
Yeah.
The compliment always you credit, become better.
Yeah, and what's wrong with getting credit? I had a big one when I came into the more of the healing energy type of work that I did, is that somebody would say, oh my gosh, that felt so good, and I'd say, it isn't me. I would right away qualify it, you know, you're pulling in the energy, or it's your guides, or it's my guides, or I'd make it about anybody but me, because felt like a gift to me to be able to do it. And when I was studying with Christine Page, who's medical intuitive, she said, you have to step in. And one of the things she said that really rang true for me was, she said, they can't do it without you. So it's a beautiful balance between me receiving and being participant in it, you know, that there is a part that I stepped into it, because there's a lot of people who might think I'm weird because of it, or ending up having to drop out of different tribes because, you know, it might not be something somebody understands. But there is that point at which it's not like some people saying, well, I'm a great healer, or I do this, I do that. It's not with ego. It's like if you have ego on one side and giving it all away on the other side, where is center? It's that part where I step in and I say, in relationship with, I'm able to do it. So it's that center point. It's not taking anything. And so now if somebody says, wow, that felt really good, I say, yeah, wasn't it great? Thanks. You know, is I don't have to like say, oh, it wasn't me, you know, for fear that they might think I'm all about myself, you know. But it's more like, no, I can step into that and just know that that is one of my life purposes. And so I'm receiving a life purpose, and what a joy it is to be able to do some of what I would consider my avocation is my vocation. But I remember when I first started receiving things, I was like, whoa, I don't know about this. People are going to think I'm weird. So immediately that little personal mind gets busy, that gets in the way and starts setting up that resistance. And I don't know about you, but when my personal mind is in the way, I'm in the way of the divine mind. And I'm bumping into myself. And so it's like if I can release my thoughts about that, you know, that I don't have to have this running chatter about that, then all of a sudden I create more space and I receive more. Have you had that experience? Yeah. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Mm-hmm. Very good. Yeah, so you say, how is this person in service to me? What are they offering me? And can I receive that? And if it doesn't feel like a vibrational match, or there feels like a big rub, then that might mean that it's not a match for you. It just might be information somebody has and it may not be for you. It might be something that they need to do to be putting it out there. And then other times that rub could be just that you have some resistance. And that resistance is getting in the way. So our resistance, are mostly beliefs, right? So there's a lot of beliefs that when somebody, offers you something, whether it's a gift or whether it's help, whether it's some support, whether it's a compliment, whether it's some material they think you should read or something like that, all of those things are great, but we have this piece that feels like it gets in the way because we think that then, what are some of the beliefs, that get in the way? What do they want? If they're up to something. Yeah, and where does that come from? Ego? Past experiences, maybe? Cultural? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so then, we want to do, I call it a checkup from the neck up, is take a look at, what is the brain offering you that's getting in the way? Because sometimes when people give a compliment, it's just because they really are so full that they're noticing everybody, they're tuned in, they're very present. So because there are people who aren't so in alignment or operate with integrity, then do we want to throw it all out? It's like, no, we say, well, I'll take that in and try to see the best in that, even if it doesn't feel all the way clean. We have that belief that if we receive help and support, that it might be a sign of our weakness. How many of you have that one going on sometimes? Yeah. That, it's a weakness of some sort, or people will perceive me as, insecure or vulnerable. For those of you who have tapped into some of Brene Brown? No. Brene Brown. Is that right? Okay. So, that vulnerability gets in the way, our fear of being vulnerable gets in the way of us being in a place of receiving.
Sometimes we take life too serious. We're too serious. So, but some people all like the way. They like
Mm-hmm.
they watch too much movie and they kind of feel that life is fear.
Mm-hmm. So our seriousness gets in the way.
Sometimes you need to play back.
Mm-hmm.
With life, we sometimes are scared. Everybody can play all the role. We have to play back. Some people serious.
It's true. Yeah. What she's saying is that there's people who just are so okay with playing. And maybe they hadn't gotten programmed, or maybe they didn't pick up the cultural context that we live in. That context of you gotta work, you gotta be serious, you can't ask for help. Getting support feels like they might think I'm not doing a good job. And so all those different ways that we resist things, they all come from thought, don't they? Is that they all come from the personal mind. And somebody either figured it out and started thinking in that way, probably in a low mood, and that they took that on and started listening to their thoughts and then started transmitting them. And so you can imagine all the different generations we've had. I have a client that is having a little bit of trouble right now and was out of town. And so I sent an email with all kinds of different statements honoring and kind of trying to tickle his core health that knows how to heal. And so a lot of the statements that I said, had to do with that you're a good healer. You have within you what you need. Ask for the highest outcome. Call in the light that matches your original self. And I sent a whole bunch of different things like that, little tips. he sends something back and says, "Now you know I'm Norwegian." Isn't that great? And then he said, "So that isn't what occurs to me to do." Isn't that great? Yeah, it's because as a culture, we a lot of times don't think that expression or pushing out a nice feeling is okay, you know. Hugging wouldn't be okay. All these different things wouldn't be okay. So along the way, we've picked up all these things. So then let's say somebody comes to hug us and we're like, "Oh, wait a minute, you know, I don't know if I can do that." Is that piece of not being in relationship with the energy or the person. You're more in relationship with your thought system, right? And so that's really a different way of going about life. It's a lot harder that way, because then we're down here going like, "I got to do everything by myself," you know, and you know, it's. I do it still to this day. Sometimes I have such a belief about, or maybe not even a belief, but I really desire independence. I like that, you know. So sometimes that can get in the way of receiving from people. And so I'm down here like going through my little 3D reality, and like it's just me who has to do all of this. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute, you know, I have to break out of that belief system and take a look around me. And so there's a lot of people who I can be in relationship with that can be offering that would make my life nicer. Sorry, you get that? No. Oh, sometimes when slides transfer from one machine to another, it looks like that title got messed up there, but isn't this an interesting picture? This is a picture that a client sent to me one time and said, "Is this energy?" And some of you may have seen this before, but you know, that cat doesn't look bothered by that, does it? Yeah, it first started coming in from the ceiling. This is the first one. Looks like the slide got switched. And so it came in. Now look at the other cat watching it. Isn't that fun? Do you watch or do you notice somebody who's good at giving? Yeah. And they're usually in a beautiful feeling. And they feel like they have enough to give. So that cat is just like watching it and going like, "Oh, look at that cat get something." And then look at the fourth picture here. That cat just is like really a nice energy, isn't it? Because that energy just came in and it wasn't saying like, "No, I don't deserve this. I've been bad once in my life." You know, I took all the toilet paper off the roll the other day. So one thing that I've learned was when I've spent time in Peru or with Americo Ybarra, the shaman that I work with, is the term Aini. And I'm sure some of you have heard of this, but Aini is more than, it's kind of a way of life. It's a code of behavior or a way of being in Peru that has to do with reciprocity. It has to do with being in right relationship with something. It's this whole thing that if they do any ritual, they're also always offering something at the same time. They're offering it so that they can receive. There's this interchange, a relationship always going on. And Aini for them would also be making sure that they extend to somebody who wouldn't ask for help. And so since a lot of you said you have trouble receiving things, that could be you. So the people who might be trying to reach out to you, it might be a part of their Aini. My brother used to be really resistant of any kind of help and he was having some health problems, and I was trying to do some stuff, and he was saying like, "No, I don't need that, I don't need that." And I said, "Do you just think you don't need it, or do you really not need it?" And then he was like, "Oh, that's my thinking." And I said, "Yeah, because it looks to me like this is a need." I said, you're trying to rob me of my aini, my reciprocity with you. You're getting in the way of my energy exchange with you. Because he's always helpful to me. And if you could think of it that way, that when somebody's trying to extend or you're receiving something, is that you are worth it, and you also really are helping that person by having an energy exchange. And that's really powerful, isn't it? Because we always think that it means a person's extending themselves or giving too much, and we actually might be getting in the way of their receiving through that reciprocity. Now, it doesn't always mean the exact thing that we're being, like, if you gave me something, then I have to give you something, but it's like, no, she may give me something, but I may be passing it on. And so that somebody else gets to experience the energy and the spirit of receiving, of the fullness of something. Their whole, in Peru, their whole life is focused on developing their energy sense of self. So it has much less to do with the material things about giving, but and receiving, it has more to do with becoming more and more light. And that's what their interest is in, you know. This is another saying that they say is, we breathe because the earth, or Pachamama, exhales. Isn't that nice? So if you think of that, it'd be like the earth, you know, exhaling in order for us to have something to bring in. And so that's sometimes what's happening when we're in relationship with each other, is this reciprocity or this interchange that's going on. And I think it's really a beautiful thing to watch, you know, watching the generosity and amazing spirit that they're in, because they're conscious of it. And we can do the same thing. It's just we're not always so conscious of it because our attention's always being pulled in so many different ways that then we're not really thinking about, like, you know, what do I need to receive? What could I call in? Or what are other people offering me that could help me to be more in alignment? Looks like all my slides, looks like the titles got screwed up there, but look, isn't that just great? This was when I was in Peru. We had just gone through this real muddy road and everything. We got to this woman's place, and I couldn't with my little camera capture it, but there was 7 dogs laying on the ground like that. And they're not saying like, oh no, I don't think I should have any of that sun. You know, I've been bad. Might make me look weak. You know, they're just taking it in. I think next time we'll have to figure the slides out a little bit better up there. This actually is saying flowers receive the rays of the sun. Have you ever watched a field of sunflowers? It's really quite amazing, because as you're watching, you know, with the sun, you can watch them turn to the sun. It's just because they are drawn to it and they want to receive that sun. They don't say to the bee, no, don't pollinate me. You know, don't be a part of my reality. They're in acceptance of the flow of things. And then, of course, because things get pollinated, we get to see bigger blooms on some things. We get to have the product that comes from things. And then we get to pass it on. How many of you feed the birds? Some? Yeah. And when you feed them, what do you like about that?
Birds start to gather in the bushes. Oh, she's going to feed us. We share.
Yeah, it's a shared experience. They're not saying like, I don't know, I should ask permission if I can eat that. you know. They're like in it with you. And you get something from doing that, you know.
I get them arriving as I whistle. That's
Uh-huh. That's very cool. Who else feeds? Okay. You said you?
Yeah, it's just the exchange of watching them eat freely. It's just a bunch of birds and fun.
Yeah. It's talking again about the exchange, which is very, very powerful. You know, when you are looking at the birds, it's like so many different things can show up. When my dad was alive, and his dad too, they always fed the birds and could sit for a couple hours in retirement watching. And then they started to name the birds, you know. And then if the squirrels came, it would be, oh, Red's here now, you know. And so some other beings get attracted to the same thing because they want to receive that nourishment from it. They want to be in participation, community. So when I'm doing my healing work, it's like when I stay really open, there's a point at when I'm visiting with somebody that, like that orb comes in, and it's like then all of a sudden I get clearer about the intentions we're setting, and the picture starts to show itself. And before that started happening, I would be thinking, I have to think it all up. You know, but not thinking that everybody has company, you know, and that company is there to assist, and that we could be receiving in the realm of each other and everything else on the planet, but also all of the unseen. You know. And for many, even the traditional religions all have that a piece in there where there's a certain saint that does something. This saint is the one that will find things. This one is the one that takes care of travel, you know. And so there's all kinds of belief in the company that we can keep. The part of us that can request that support. And I think that that's really powerful is that we not only can be in relationship with each other and having good aini with each other, but also we can be serving for the unseen and receiving from the unseen. So that place of receiving has to come by moving out the intellect some. You know, we can't get rid of the intellect. It's a very helpful thing to not have to remember something every single day about how... You've seen those movies where the person has amnesia or something and that they have to meet their spouse again the next day. Oh, you're so-and-so. Well, there's an advantage to that because then we'd be looking at each other fresh. But the disadvantage is we'd have to be, you know, learning everything all the time. So the mind is really helpful, but the mind is also creating lots of chatter or picking up and receiving things that are old now. So it's that part of let's move out the old and let's get into a place of receiving now. Because in this time on the planet, there's also a huge need to be in service. But you can't just always be in service and not replenish. So it's that part about let's get clear and let's practice, you know, clearing out so that we receive more. We receive whatever's next. So does that sound like a good thing to have a meditation around? You open to that? All right. Now, because I speak softly, we're going to try to find a nice balance between the music and my voice so that, because I get quiet sometimes, and I want you all to, can you hear me okay? Everybody? All right, so let's just first of all get really comfortable. And many times it's helpful to just really close your eyes and so that you're not taking in any of the information around you, or getting stimulated by information around you. Do you have any music coming? work on quieting down the noise and seeing if we can't get into a different brain state where it's very hard to receive things when your mind is in a beta brainwave, which is needed for all the tasks that you do, but not needed when you want to receive things. Let's see if we can't quiet the mind. Let's take in 3 deep breaths. Letting the air not just go through your chest, but all the way down to your diaphragm, below your belly button. Now we're going to ask to be assisted from the unseen world and by your free will, so that we can let go and move out the resistance. Move into a place of receiving. Now I'd like for you to kind of conjure up without having to get into the story of your thoughts. But just conjure up, what are those things, the beliefs that you have that get in the way of receiving for you? And see what kind of image you might be able to come up with, or a color, or a feeling. And notice where it kind of lodges in your system. It may land on your heart. It might really occupy a lot of your brain. Or take up space in your field. Just notice. And now imagining that your consciousness is light. You're connected to divine mind, source energy, God, that sees those thought systems primarily like just little specks. Not a problem to who you are and what you're about, but just some density thoughts that you picked up along your way. And as you observe it, call in something that you think would come in to remove that. For some of you, it might be something that just zaps those particles and thoughts. For others, it might be something that, like a rake, that you can just clear out of your field. Taking with it any vibrations and habits that accompanied it. Picture what that space looks like without it. How big is it? Without that habit in your field, how much space is there for something else to come in? If you just let those thoughts settle down, how much more room do you have for your mind to be creative? to be in service? How much more energy do you have? Now imagine all the things that the universe or the people around you have to provide and offer. Imagine the sweetness of the energy exchange. How that resonates with who you truly are. Your core health. Your divine essence. And see if you can't merge that with the experience of receiving. Knowing that it just adds to the frequency and the vibration that you can operate in and offer to the world. Seeing that it's just so light and so easy, effortless to walk in the world in that vibration compared to the density or the crowdedness or the pain and insecurity that anything else made up from the mind gets in the way. Now see if you can't call in whatever is next for your development, whatever's next to feed you and nourish you. And imagine that your field goes out in all directions to activate what it is you need. Whether it's support from a person, insight from the divine, just the energy or the vitality to do the things you want to do. What is it that you want to receive? Abundance or freedom, creativity. See if you can't inhale the energy of that. Inhaling that energy, and in your exhale, just releasing the beliefs that get in the way of that. And imagine a community all around you, both in physical and spiritual, formless energy that you have access to. And pull all the filaments in to nourish your system. Releasing any tiredness, any angst, any silly thoughts. And to yourself or to out loud, say, I welcome all that is in support of my system. All that is in support of my life's purpose. all that's in support of my transmitting what is necessary and useful. And breathing in that conscious, pure state. That came with you to walk through your life. It is your life. It is you. And you are worthy. Now ask your system to integrate the energies. And have it go into alignment with who you truly are. Both a giver and a receiver. There is no shortage. And feel it run through your system, from your crown chakra, down through your system, tying in at the heart space, and going down to your feet, and anchoring you in this new found sense of purpose and energy. Now take 5 breaths. Imagining it expanding into your field. Being that protective, wonderful higher vibration where negativity and nonsense can't accompany it. Bringing your attention back into the room, thanking your guides and the energies and all the people in this room who are so full for being a part of your journey. Slowly open your eyes. All right. Kind of wiggle so that you're back in your body. The shimmy. So in the closing circle here at Lake Harriet, what we do is we oftentimes will offer or shout out something that we want to offer to each other or to the planet, offering it through spirit and through your deeds or your ways of being. And so I think if anybody is inclined to say something that you would like to either receive or offer people, we'll just ask that it gets projected towards the center with all the threads running from every person to the center, okay? All right. So in the closing circle here at Lake Harriet, what we do is we oftentimes will offer or shout out something that we want to offer to each other or to the planet, offering it through spirit and through your deeds or your ways of being. And so I think if anybody is inclined to say something that you would like to either receive or offer people, we'll just ask that it gets projected towards the center with all the threads running from every person to the center, Okay? All right. Have the ability to tap into that center, that you don't need to be here to have that. Energy knows no boundaries. So you can walk with that support and that fullness. Enjoy. And thank you for being here.